Hi folks. I was looking at the Indian team to England for the tests, which are likely to start from around the 20th of June, I think. And like everybody else, the first thing that strikes me is a certain degree of ad hocism in the selection, and it does appear that uh, whenever a coach, a new coach comes in, like we had earlier some similar coaches like Ravi Shastri and now Gautam Gambhir, and before that the inimitable Greg Chappell. The strength of the coach seems to be overwhelming on the selectors vis-a-vis the team selection, and quite often it resembles an inner burning desire to change everything in order to make it look like everything is wrong. I'm all for replacement of some of the oldies, especially people who are not performing. For example, Rohit and Virat. But of the two, I thought Rohit probably had a reasonable chance of performing in England, especially with KL Rahul as his opening partner, because in the last essay, the two were stellar performers as opening batsmen, and they taught the English, a thing or two about how to play on English wickets. What with playing straight, leaving the ball outside the off stick, not necessarily fishing around, and adding up to some pretty good first wicket partnerships. Getting rid of both of them, in addition to, of course, the exit of Virat Kohli, which I thought was fully justified considering the major issues which he started facing with balls, with many of the balls which are moving a little bit outside the off stick in the early part of his innings, and his lunge forward play did mean that he was vulnerable in the English conditions. Rohit Sharma, I thought, is a bit of an enigmatic performer, and especially at the top order, if he and Rahul get along, that would have formed a pretty strong start for the English team, for the Indian team's batting lineup, which is otherwise looking very depleted. I think there are a few in this team who can consider themselves lucky. For example, Abhimanyu Ishwaran and Shardul Thakur are, I think, two people who possibly could have been replaced with better players. Like, for example, maybe Sarfaraz Khan or Shreyas Iyer in place of Abhimanyu Ishwaran. And in place of Shardul Thakur, you could probably have tied out a different all-rounder. So also Nitish Reddy. He hasn't really earned his straps, but notwithstanding that, I give the best of luck to the entire team. Now, as regards the captain, I thought it's a bit too early to blood in Shubman Gill, and I would have preferred Rishabh Pant as captain and Shubman Gill as his deputy because of the fact that in current pedigree, Rishabh Pant is probably a better test match player than Shubman Gill, considering both performances as well as certain, I wouldn't call them technicalities in batting, but it is more lack of application at sometimes, which you see with Shubman Gill, because he otherwise looks quite solid, but I believe as a test player he plays too many shots, and at least in the initial part of the innings, it is not necessary that you go and impose yourself on the opposition. I hope I'm proved wrong in my assessment when Shubman Gill comes and probably does better than what I expect. But I wouldn't be very surprised if you see Shubman Gill as a batting failure. As regards captaincy, I believe in this team the real captain is Gautam Gambhir because he cannot keep his hands off the team, and it is quite likely that he will spend a lot of time sending messages and advising the captain and kind of interfering with the flow of play, which is the want of an an overly eager, ultra aggressive coach whose whose coaching pedigree, especially in the longer formats of the game, is far from established. And consequently, I believe that this combination in the Indian team leaves a little bit to be desired. The strength of this team obviously lies in its bowling. However, there is also a chink in the armor in the sense Bumrah is not available for all tests, which is quite understandable considering the workload that he has to carry. But there is not an adequate replacement unless you provide pitches which give them significant movement and bounce, movement of the pitch and bounce on the pitch, which will enable them, and especially in England, it will be more greater lateral movement, which hopefully they would be able to exploit. But we have to understand that the British players were brought up on these kind of conditions against bowlers who are not the same pedigree as Bumrah and Shami, are likely to negotiate them much better than what we expect them to do. I hope I am proved wrong by the fallacies in the English team, which in the name of baseball has converted them in Test cricket into bash ball, which essentially says go and bash the ball around, notwithstanding what, and consequently the smell the ball when you play forward is put paid to, and the rest of the greats like Sunil Gavaskar and Jeffrey Boycott and people like that who have kind of nurtured this game over several decades look askance at people who essentially go out to show the ball what they are made of, rather than what is traditionally called Test cricket, where like the great SG would say, give the first hour to the bowler, the next hour is neutral, and the first session to the bowler, the second session is neutral, and third session is where the batsman can take advantage if they're good enough to stay during that period. My worry about this Indian team is its fickleness, in addition to its over-aggression and to a certain extent overconfidence. And I believe this stems right from the coach downwards. And I'm a little surprised that as a bunch of selectors who really don't have a very strong pedigree of their own, coming down to the demands of so-called changes, which are quite clearly prematurely done, especially that of Rohit Sharma. I hope I'm proved wrong completely and that this team does a great job, in which case many of these people would be happy to see a young team succeed in England. Not because we have done a great job, but more because the English team has gone about bashing the ball without thinking what to do. As regards certain other players in the team like Yashasvi Jaiswal and Rishabh Pant and possibly Karun Nair, who is extremely lucky to have found his place again, because this is not a country where heroes are brought back from after being jettisoned in an early part of their career. I was seeing some comments made by ex-experts about the selection and non-selection of people like Shreyas Iyer, etc. But I do believe that Karun Nair is an adequate replacement, and if his India A performance is anything to go by, then we should expect him to succeed, especially the fact that this is going to be not the penultimate but the ultimate test for him. And if he doesn't come through this, his career will be put paid to. My worry is with Jaiswal's temperament, his over aggression, and the fact that sometimes he tends to feel that the other bowlers don't mean anything. His arrogance has to be curbed, and he has to learn to play in a manner that makes him worth the talent that he actually possesses. So he should not forget where he came from, with a view to ensuring that he stays on the ground where he plays. And I have great admiration for his talent, and I'm hoping that he will do well enough. Overall, there are some mixed feelings about this team, and any love for this team will build up only in the future as we see them outperforming some of the erstwhile greats who have retired from this game. Thank you very much.